Coming to you live from the Russian capital, I'm Marina Jashi. Now, UN inspectors have just arrived in Damascus. They're due to complete their probe into the allegations of chemical weapons use in Syria. For more on this, we're now joined by our correspondent, Paula Sleer. Hi there, Paula. So do bring us up to speed. What do we know about the situation?
Well, the United Nations team has arrived in Damascus, where they will be completing their probe into the use or the possible use of chemical weapons in that country. Now, the team was established by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and it is being headed by Swedish scientist Dr. Åke Sällström. The convoy of 5 United Nations cars arrived at a central hotel in Damascus shortly before midday on Wednesday. We understand that there are at least some 8 UN investigators participating in this investigation. The team was in Syria last month, and in a report that was handed to the United Nations on the 16th of September, it concluded that it had clear and convincing evidence that sarin gas had been used in an attack on the 21st of August in the suburbs of Damascus, in which hundreds of people were killed. Now, Dr. Sällström has said that that report was an initial finding. It is an initial document, and that their purpose now is to look into other allegations. We do expect them to examine some 13 to 14 alleged attacks that took place inside Syria during this 13-month conflict. The team does say that it hopes to present its final findings addressing all of these accusations possibly by the end of October. Now, there has been criticism as to the fact that the team can or cannot conclude whether or not chemical gas was used, but it's not going to be able to say who was behind these chemical attacks. And indeed, this is not one of the missions of this particular investigation. Moscow has also pointed out that UN inspectors ignored evidence that was handed to them by Syria. It was handed to them secretly, and that this evidence was ignored. As a result, Russia saying that this initial report was biased and needs reinvestigation.
All right, Paul, thanks very much indeed for bringing us the very latest. RT's Paula Sleer reporting for us. Now, addressing the UN General Assembly, Barack Obama stressed that President Assad staying as head of the Syrian state was not an option, saying it would create an extremely violent space for extremists to operate. Anti-war activist Brian Becker believes Washington is just looking for a pretext to push through a military solution to the conflict.
What the United States and what France are trying to do at the Security Council is to bully Russia and bully China in order to get wording into that resolution that would authorize them to carry out military action under the rubric of the United Nations. But clearly the Obama administration says it has the authority to act unilaterally, but it would like to have some sort of shield or at least mask for that sort of unilateral operation. Chemical weapons in this instance are a pretext for an escalating intervention. The Obama administration's hand has been stayed because of global opposition, including massive domestic opposition in the United States. They're trying to come back, but they're in a weakened position right now. It's a double standard. It's hypocrisy. The United States is trying to bully the UN Security Council to do what it really wants to do, which is to escalate the conflict in Syria to overthrow that government.
Now, in his speech at the UN General Assembly, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said he's ready for dialogue on the country's nuclear program. He's called for a consistent voice from Washington on the issue, while Obama also signaled his willingness to talk. RT's Anissa Nawi reports.
At his debut speech at the UN, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani stressed Iran is not a threat, but made to be one by other countries to promote interest in the region. He said no military solution is acceptable in the region, and the Syrian crisis is a result of external influence to change regional order. Now, Rouhani talked about how people in the world are tired of wars and violence and how moderation is needed. He added that Iran is ready to cooperate. He once again said Iran is not seeking nuclear weapons and is ready to help quell concern over its peaceful nuclear program.
Iran's nuclear program, and for that matter, that of all other countries, must pursue exclusively peaceful purposes. Nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction have no place in Iran's security and defense doctrine and contradict our fundamental religious and ethical convictions.
As expected, he had a much softer tone than his predecessor, but the Israeli delegation was not present for Rouhani's speech. In fact, in an interview after his speech, he did talk about the Holocaust, saying that it was a horrible crime against Jewish people, much different kind of rhetoric than we heard from Ahmadinejad in his speeches at the UN. The U.S. was present for the speech. A lot of hope, of course, that this week could see a reset of U.S.-Iran relations. No direct exchange between the presidents, but the highest level meeting since 1979 will be held as of now on Thursday between foreign ministers.
Now, we are closely following all the developments at the General Assembly, and we've got all the details for you online. So to listen to all the speeches by the world leaders and more, you can log on to RT.com.